Yeah, welcome everyone to our first Fireside Chat of 2025. We are incredible, excited to have you all here for what promises to be an inspiring and insightful conversation. It's not every day we get the chance to sit down with a true visionary in the world of design and motion graphics. So it's a real privilege to welcome Erin Sarofsky. I'm Vanessa Maldonado, Resource Manager at PN and also the manager of the Fly on the Wall initiative. I'm also joined today by Andrea Genduza, who's designer and animator at PN and the design lead for the Fly on the Wall.
Awesome.
We would like to thank the leading studios involved in this initiative, Gantry, Made by Things, Mongo, Sarofsky, Resonate, and Spill. And we also want to give a huge thanks to our partners school, Cal Poly Pomona, Gunnery School, School of Motion, and Western Washington University. As part of the Fly on the Wall, we have planned a series of community events spotlighting some of the most exciting voices in the motion design industry. And today we are thrilled to kick things off with Erin, who will be sharing her thoughts on a powerful topic: what does it take to become a creative director? Thanks so much to everyone who submitted questions for Erin. After the conversation, we will open the floor for Q&A. You will also find in the chat a form where you can submit additional questions or about the ones you were most excited to hear Erin answer. Now I would like to hand it over to Han, Creative Director and Co-founder at BN and Director of the Fly on the Wall, who will be the moderator during the session.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. Appreciate that. So just quickly, for those of you who may have heard of Fly on the Wall initiative, it's basically a project-based internship, right? It's an experience that allows you to come in, observe, gain insights, and learn from the creative process from the participating studios. So I want to give a quick intro to Erin from my perspective.
Oh.
So you know, because to me, she's had an impact on my career at least. So I want to do a quick one. Mm-hmm. So I hope that a lot of you can resonate with this, right? Because I started my career in a small market. I was a nobody, right? I worked in Texas, and I worked mainly in the medical and oil and gas industry for a while. My first big break was I got a freelance gig in Digital Kitchen in Chicago. So I went up there, I walked around, I saw this amazing thing on the screen. And I was like, man, that looks awesome. Why can't I create something like that? You know how you ever have that feeling like, man, I didn't know I could, there are people who are creating work at this level. And it was a frame from Ghost Whisperer. And then later I found out that was Erin's desk, and she was sitting there, a designer, and I happened to pass by, like, man, that's cool. I want to do something like that. And it was like an inspiration moment for me. I didn't get to know Erin at all during my years working at Digital Kitchen because I was freelancer and just never crossed paths on the project. But with that said, I want to introduce you to Erin Sarofsky, and she's known for creating gorgeous and innovative title sequences. I think everything from Captain America, Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, you name them, and of course the latest, Superman, which is in theater right now. James Gunn, awesome stuff. What you also may not know is that Erin runs a podcast with Austin Shaw called Between the Keyframes. I highly recommend it. Check it out. Lots of good stuff on there. And also, Erin directs live action. But I don't know what else. Erin, come on. You're like doing everything here. So anyways, with that, I'll pass it on to you, Erin, to say a few words.
Yeah, well, thank you for that very sweet introduction. Those were really beautiful boards for Ghost Whisperer. So, oh my God, it's really interesting that you mentioned that, and I'll just it's making me reflect on that time right now, because we did just deliver Superman, and it's kind of making the world insane right now in a really good way. And I remember back to those days at Digital Kitchen, and I did boards for the Bryan Singer Superman, and I just remember feeling like it was the end of the world that I didn't win that job. You know what I mean? So many years later, there's like this extra layer of, I think, pride and understanding how the arc of a career can work sometimes. That is really special. So, but yeah, I'm Erin Sarofsky. I own a studio based in Chicago. We do work in film and entertainment and TV and advertising, everything from, things you scan by on social media, like the most disposable work to the most archival work. And I think for each piece, we just think about what's right for that job and that brand. And we do think of our entertainment projects as brands as well. And, work with our clients to like bring our and their collective visions to life. Yeah. So the studio is, I'm sure people are wondering a little bit about the studio. We're just a little over 20 full-time now. And yeah, but our bench is pretty deep. It could be anywhere from 5 to like 20 freelancers going at a time, depending on, like the workload. So we do have a bunch of creative directors now kind of as our traffic cops, and I lead those people as well as like some individual jobs. So it depends. And then I do direct live action. I'm actually away all next week directing. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that, Erin. So the topic today is people ask all the time, right? Like, how do I become a creative director? What does it take to become a creative director?
Yes.
And I feel like there is a generic answer out there, right? The generic answer is out there and separating what a creative director does. But I feel like in our conversation today, we want to focus on your personal experience becoming who you are today, right? Your journey, I think, because like it's not great when you try to mimic someone else. Like, oh, Erin became a creative director, I should too. It's more like taking inspiration from that. So, and for those of you, like we had like, Erin, we got like 70 plus questions.
Oh my God.
Right? So I apologize to everyone
It's
if
okay.
I don't get through all of them. But what I encourage a lot of you to do is that if you have a question that is kind of like about career path and things like that, I encourage you to look up the Between the Keyframes advice column on Motionographer. And because Erin and Austin answer a lot of those questions, like what should I do, all that, So I want you to direct you to that. Today, I want to focus on this, like a framework for the question, what does it take to become a creative director this way? The aha moments, Erin, that allow you to level up, the key mentors along the way, and the projects that allow you to gain the confidence to kind of take the next step. So if you don't mind, just think of those things when I ask you the question. So let's just start with the very beginning of your journey, right? Because a lot of people who are on the call today are new out of school. So your first job out of school. So did you have like mentors at that point? And how did you know that you supposed to create great work?
Well, when I left grad school, I applied at like the 3 companies, which was You and Company, Imaginary Forces, and Digital Kitchen. And Digital Kitchen called me back and they said they were opening a Chicago office and, would I come out and interview? And it was just like, yeah. Then they offered me very little money and I just got my car and drove out, like as one does. I felt like really grateful to be just starting my career there. They had created 6 Feet Under and another title sequence that I really thought was beautiful for Arnold Schwarzenegger film called 6th Day. Really beautiful title sequence. And so I was like, absolutely, I'm on my way. And from there were 2 creative directors, or just there weren't really titles then. We were just like all kids making stuff. Now it's become very like representative of the fields that we work for. So we mimic a little bit of advertising, we mimic a little bit of the VFX industry, and we mimic a little bit of the film industry or broadcast. Anyway, so yeah, then it was Mason Nickel and Danny Yunt, and they were both in Seattle, and I was in Chicago. I think it really took Chicago a long time to find a creative director that really took ownership over that office. And I was definitely too young to be that. I was just a sponge at that point. So when we would do boards and we would get together, they were clearly like the two best designers, without question. A Digital Kitchen, probably like ever, but certainly at that time. And so for me, it was just about creating work that was competitive with theirs. Like legitimately, I just was like, if I'm going to do well here, somehow I have to beat these guys who are absolutely insane.
So they set the bar, right? They were like setting the bar and you like, oh, I got to get there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so every time I would create something and we would do, crits, we would do these kind of roundtable reviews between the offices. And I would just ask questions and like absorb all the feedback. Yeah. And
did you find that the real world critique different than school critique?
Yes, because in school you can do whatever and say whatever, and the teacher is going to be relatively polite about the whole thing. But when you move into the real world, the people around you and the creative directors and your team are trying to like pre-solve problems. So something as simple as like in a main title, all your type has to be the same size. Don't show a board that is not going to make it through legal. One, you look amateur. And then two, like, why would you create a problem from the beginning that it's just problematic. So, from practical things to, lessons that they learned making main titles and making commercials and all the things. So all of their advice was very practical and I think really geared towards selling like the most stunning work you could possibly sell. So yeah. So it's different.
Was there like a project that made you realize like, oh yeah, I am at that level now?
It's interesting. I think there was a project, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but there was a main title sequence where I realized I'm not there.
That's knowing that you did not get there is as important as getting there, right?
Because I think when you're coming out of school, like you've evolved so much over 4 years. You just got hired at this like amazing company doing all this amazing work. You're feeling really good, like your arms hurt from patting yourself on the back and thinking you're amazing. But the reality is you're just good enough for them to take a shot with you. Like you're not great. Like, even if you have a beautiful book, like your processes, your organization, your communication, your soft skills, like all of that needs work. You are not yet even remotely close to a great employee who's proven yourself and worthy of trust. And so I'm trying to remember the name of this show, but I remember looking at my boards compared to basically Danny and Mason's and thinking like, God, my boards are just so busy and cluttered. And there isn't like a point of view. And I was looking at all of my frames thinking, God, each of these frames looks really beautiful, but like, what about this as like a narrative isn't working? And so I remember taking a step back and just like really looking at their boards and trying to figure out what it was. And and it really helped. I'm trying to think if there was a job that like made me feel like, yeah, I get this, but I think more important was the one that I felt like, wow, like I'm not there yet.
I love that. So basically the takeaways here is like, you get out of school, find mentors, like really great mentors and also people who set a bar so high that you have to try to meet that bar, yourself. And I think you mentioned you kind of deconstructed their work to see what happened, what worked and what didn't in your boards. Yeah. So having that dedication, and understanding that there are people better than you, just find out how they made it work so you can make your own work better. Yeah.
And just knowing it's incremental, the change. Yeah. Like you'll get better and you'll be like, yeah, like I sold something or whatever. But then, it could be weeks, months before you do it again. And as long as your work is improving and you're, continuing to push, it'll grow and evolve. Yeah.
I'm going to skip forward a little bit to because like we want to get to the creative director part a little faster, right? But from being a designer to become an art director, because you know how it is in our industry, the art director title is kind of, in a way, I'm sorry to say, but made up, right?
Yeah, it's like more of a senior designer.
Yeah,
position.
it's a senior designer. Like you can go from designer to creative director if you want, you know, because like in between, it's kind of like, well, you go into an agency, you can become an art director right away out of school. So what was that defining project or moment that made you get promoted, or you felt like you've earned the title of like being art director?
So at Digital Kitchen, it was a wild time. And so I take some ownership over this. I feel like they should probably take some ownership over this, but I like never, ever got a promotion there. I got a salary increase when I found out my contemporaries were making almost double what I was making. So it was kind of not the best run place from like a human resources perspective. It was a bit toxic. And I do think there were some gender biases there. I'll just say that. There was a day, I mean, I was running jobs. So what started happening is like, I started to get better and better, and producers would bring me work just directly, like the actions of others and my behavior and the way I would run jobs, or be like, oh, you know who would be great for that job, like that freelancer or that freelancer. So I was starting to build teams. I was starting to do the work of a freelancer just because I was a smart, communicative, outgoing designer that liked to collaborate with my producers in the studio. So I basically slowly just took the role and was doing the role. And then I'll never forget, one day I was on a call with a client, and the owner of the studio was like, yeah, your creative director on this is Erin. She'll take the call from here. And I was just like, I just like couldn't believe it. I was like, I'm a creative director, you know? And so I ran that job as I was running other jobs, but it like with a different kind of feeling, you know? And then a couple months later, I was like, hey, so I'm a creative director now. That's amazing. And they were like, oh, no, I was just saying that, like, we're not giving you like a salary increase. And I'm like, actually, I'm a creative director now. And so it was just like, here's the thing. Like when you start as a really just fresh out of college, junior designer, and it was a long run. It was about 6 years. And you know, you've taken ownership. Sometimes it's really hard for somebody to see you as anything but like, you know, your intern basically, right? And so I get that. I own a studio. I know it's hard sometimes to be like, oh, wow, like, yeah, they are doing that work. It is kind of a big mental shift there for leadership to kind of acknowledge sometimes. Yeah. So I would say there's a bias there, but also like he's the one that said that, and I was doing that job, and that like super pissed me off. And so that's when things got like a little rocky there, because they weren't really sure, I think, on their side what to do. There were other creative directors in the office, like, and it became very clear that there was a political thing going on, and I was like dead in the center of it. So I left. I just called a bunch of other studios. And at that point, Justin Cohn for years had me on the cream of the crop list with just my website on Motionographer. So when I started calling people, I just started getting offers like crazy. And so I wound up with a super fad in New York, where I was officially a creative director and over doubled my salary. Yeah.
So you went basically from a designer to an unofficial creative director. It's kind of like, because as the designer, you were already an art director in a sense.
Yeah.
And you gained the trust of the producers who came straight to you to do jobs as if you were the creative lead, right? So the title was fluid, right? It wasn't like, hey, there's a jump from designer to art director or whatever. So I think the lesson here is like, don't worry too much about the titles, right?
Yeah, I really think that is a huge issue with recent grads, is they're so focused on the money and title and less focused on the environment and the experience and the access to work and the access to talent around them who can teach them and mentor them. They get so tripped up on things. I think had I been so tripped up on that, I would have been at a DK in a heartbeat. you know, I would have been, this place is sexist, they don't care, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's all true, but look at what I got. Like, I got Emmy nomination, I got to work with some of the best designers and best clients on the planet, you know what I mean? Like, I got more than it's always, nothing's perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And there was a point at which I was like, oh, I see. This is a problem for me in my career and I want to move on. But to that point, I had gotten so much more than I wasn't getting, because I had the responsibility. I was doing the work. I mean, I wasn't making the money necessarily, but I was doing the work to be the thing. And it's like, I always say it's like a pilot, right? Like to be a pilot, you have to fly a lot before you're a pilot. Just because you can fly does not make you a pilot, does not make you worthy of trust of flying alone.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's the same way I feel about the title of being art director, Erin. You've seen this, right? It's like, I think people don't understand that if you're going to put that title on then you need to have the experience to back it up.
Experience.
That's more important than the title.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah, I think at a certain point, creative direction is not about creative talent. It's about managerial excellence.
So speaking of which, since you have talked a lot, you know, you are a CD yourself, and you've talked to a lot of creative directors on, you know, the Between the Keyframes podcast. How would you define the role of a creative director?
Manager of artists. Yeah, you know, it is very much like about talent curation and helping creatives find their way and managing the client. So I talk a lot about being a creative director as like making sure everybody feels ownership. So many creative directors think like they're the big deal in it. But I think if you're really a successful creative director, and what I mean by a successful creative director means having happy clients and a happy team. That is, to me, what is a successful. It creates teams that they're just not going to quit. If it's time for them to move on, you're going to have to fire them. It's such a healthy, constructive place for them to be. And then clients that want to use you over and over again, work with you, even when it's not even an appropriate job for you. You know, they're just like, can you please do this? I can't handle it, right? And that means making sure everybody feels ownership. So, and to that point, everybody wants to put it on their website and says, I did this, I created this. So from a client, like if it's an agency, that they're excited about the work, that they feel like their comments and their thoughts, that they were an integral part to the creation of it, down to like the junior designer who's setting some type and animating it. You know what I mean? Everybody feels like they contributed to it and that their contributions made the piece better. That is my job. Because if somebody starts feeling like I'm not being heard or my work isn't valued, then it's wildly problematic.
How much creative do you still do, Erin? Like, for example, let's just take this Superman title sequence, right?
Yeah.
Are you still involved in setting the vision, or you said, no, you know, just send the framework and let the art directors go at it?
Yeah, so that's a really important question, because Superman, I have a very strong relationship with James Gunn, and you know, he just calls and then we're off and running. And I know that sounds super awesome, but it is. But Duarte Alves, who is a creative lead at the studio, tends to work and lead all of James's project, and they also have a good relationship and a special relationship. So the way we tackle these things, because it just seems to work for our studio, and I think for me personally, is that I'm very heavily involved in setting the directionality of the piece. So in writing the brief, in Duarte and I choosing our artists that are going to work on it, helping develop the presentations. And once a piece kind of has its voice, it's Duarte's now. And I'm really a sounding board for him, so that as he's so close to it, when he's just like, I need you to look at this, like which path is better, which way is better, that's when I get in the muck there. But, or if we're having a hard client review and they can't make decisions, I can top line things pretty quickly or be a good cop or a bad cop, like whatever they need. At that point, you really have to hand it to your creative director and say, this is yours, you know, and that's part of the ownership. If I was still in it, like having another creative director run it, like why do that? But I do like, I feel like my strength always has been the directionality of a job, where it's going to go. And then I'm not a strong finisher. I tend to lose interest as things kind of go through the, oh gosh, there's like an issue with the color profile. And, you know, it gets very like tacky. And I'm like, okay, somebody else now. And Dwart's really good at, you know, maintaining the creative vision through all the technical aspects of it. So I really trust him to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. I have a question in the chat that's kind of related to what we're doing. We're talking about right now. Like, how did you know your taste was good enough to lead others? Do you have a system for that? Like, you know, collecting references?
That's a really good question. You know, I mean, everybody thinks their taste is good. I think it's not so much your taste. I mean, so I think where my taste comes out is in talent curation, right? Like Dwart and Kat and Ryan are my creative directors, and I really love their work. I don't think it's exactly like my work, but I find it to be super special, right? And then as we then curate talent and try talent, the things that we're attracted to. So I think that ultimately, like, the curation of a team, of a creative studio is what's setting the creative vision for it.
But if you were to be leading a project, you know, like
Yes.
Erin, I know you're like ECD.
Okay, yeah, I do
If
lead
we
jobs.
backtrack a little bit, you just like CD, and you have to do all that. What would you do yourself?
So, you know, when I started the company, it was just me, and and I was literally designing and animating everything. And so, you know, there were various stages of growth that I would have to go through to be like, oh, I need another, you know, I need animators to do this part, and I need, you know, all of that. So when you're a super hands-on creative director, I think it's in curating reference, you know, just understanding what to pull in relation to what you're doing to inspire people and to be a good writer and to write a great brief. So that, yeah, the writing is a huge part of it too, because most of our clients are writers. They're not visual people. So they'll actually kind of gravitate more towards the writing than even the design. Sometimes it's crazy. That was a big lesson for me. That came very late. But yeah, I think, you know, reference, all that stuff. I think everything is about taste. And I don't know, like there's some people that probably have great taste, and I think they have terrible taste and terrible instincts. We had a couple creative directors and designers that I elevated to creative directors where it just didn't work out. And it was because of that, because they didn't accept feedback because they thought their work was amazing. And I thought it was like a real B-. So, yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that like curating references is really a hard skill to have. Like, you know, to put together a reference board that looks beautiful, that has a POV, a voice, you know, just like something as tactical as like, where do you even go to find these beautiful images versus just Googling? You know, where would you go, Erin?
You know, AI is fun now, but I'm like really decent with directing it, which I think has to do with taste, and not just because something's beautiful in front of you doesn't mean it's like the thing. You know what I mean? So I think that's part of it. I mean, Pinterest was great for a while, but now it's like so cluttered with AI kind of garbage. I still love art books. I'm still like a book person and a photographer person, and just old paintings. And, you know, the thing I love about Austin Shaw and why I love collaborating with him and being friends with him is he is like an art historian. Like he knows everybody's name. So I'll be like, I'm looking for a reference and I remember this painting and I just start describing it and he has the artist's name and, you know, like the subgenre movement. And then that sends me down a rabbit hole. I do believe like what's old is new. Everything that we are doing is some kind of amalgamation of things that have come before, in concert with society and technology and all this other stuff. So I really love leaning on historical references and things of a time.
So expand your horizon. Don't just stay focused in motion design and graphics.
Yeah, that's the kiss of death. That's how you become like a one-trick pony or very one note. You know.
Yeah. Another question here, it's interesting, is what are the ways, in your opinion, that you can grow into a creative director position if you don't work in-house?
That's interesting. So there's an aspect of becoming a creative director is that you just start saying you're a creative director. I felt like I very naturally became a creative director, in part because people were calling me a creative director and people were asking me to do those things. So I felt very like confident in that. What I didn't feel so confident in is being a director, because I felt like, you know, yeah, I'd filmed some stuff, but like people came to DK for that or Superfat, and I was just like tacked onto it. And I felt that's like a different industry where typically when, you know, you're going to a director, like a live action director, they're calling you for your reel. And there was just like, one day I forgot who I was with, but I was saying, yeah, I don't know, I'm not really a director. And they're like, yeah, but you directed like all, you know, these like 6 spots. And I'm like, yeah, but, and they're like, do you think a guy would stop for 1 second from saying he's a director? You've done the work.
Yeah.
Who cares how it got to you? And I was like, oh, I guess you're right. I am a director. And so there's an aspect of becoming, especially if you are out of like a traditional construct, that you just have to say you are and like hope you're ready.
That's awesome. So like own it, right? It's like if you have the confidence, and I think I would add, like if you are not in-house somewhere, then you should develop your own POV, like very strong POV, because that's what people come to you for. That like that's your own thing. You own that POV, and that's you can just call yourself a director, creative director, whatever you want at that point. As long as you have the strong POV and the confidence to own it, and don't let work, right? Like give yourself permission, the work to back it up, push it. All right, these are great so far. You know, I want to make sure that we have some time to kind of open up the floor and let people raise hands and ask you questions directly. But I have just a couple more to go through. I want to go and ask you this most voted question. If you had to start from scratch today, where would you focus your energy first?
Oh my gosh. My health. I don't know. You know, if I had to start today in today's climate, it's so different now. The work is so different. But I think I still love doing what I'm doing. I still love the main titles, and I still really love this weird little niche industry we are. So I think I would still do the same. Look for who is making the best work with a small to medium-sized team that looks like they have stability in the economy, and just try like hell to get a job there. And because if somebody is hiring a junior person now with what's going on, they are looking to invest in somebody to stick around. You know, when you have a junior artist for the first 2-3 years that they're going to be work. You're going to have to, you know, your creative directors, your art directors are going to have to sit down with them. They're going to have to show them things. You know, with work from home, it means a lot of, you know, we're hybrid, so 3 days in studio, 2 days out. So when you're out of, that means it's like a huddle. Like you got to have a one-on-one. Where in the office, you could just like scoot over, show them something, scoot back. You know what I mean? It's just like different. It takes like much more time to be a creative director remotely, to give everybody like all the individual attention that they need. So I would say if somebody is like hiring you, they're looking to invest in you and to take that seriously. Don't just look for your first opportunity to jump because you see a better title or a better salary. Like really assess your situation and see if you're learning and growing. That money will come later. Trust me. It's not worth it to give up like a really sweet gig with access to work where you're growing your reel and meeting all of these interesting people that are going to be all of your contemporaries later on, like you and I. Yeah.
So last question from me before I hand it over to the group. Just very tactical, right? I think a lot of people are interested in like, oh, what does a creative director do day to day? And then we know it varies greatly.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe you can tell us, like, let's just say, what do you do on a slow day and a really busy day? How many multiple projects do you juggle? That kind of stuff.
Oh my God, there's so many. I gotta open up Slack and just show you so we typically have between 20 and 40 jobs going on at any given time, ranging from small, quick little things to, 4-minute pieces. Like right now I'm working on, it's kind of an institutional video, but it's a 5-minute long thing for a big financial services piece. And that's a lot of my focus because I'm directing. And once you start directing, you're like on casting calls for 2 hours and location scouts and having sidebars about wardrobe. It really, like, be careful before you go into live action. That is like really a pain in the ass gig. I think being a creative director is so much more awesome of a job because it just is, and I don't know. I think it's more impressive too. Bigger picture anyway. Okay. So we have that many of those jobs. Maybe I'm running 2 or 3 max because if I'm in the mix, I'm just on too many calls. You know what I mean? Like I'm on too many calls for like running the business. I think, over the last 3 to 4 years, I've really taken ownership as like a CEO type role and running operations and like really dialing that aspect of the business, also marketing and PR, and really focusing on new business and growth. So I would say like 50 to 60% of my day is hovering there. And the rest is on the actual work itself. And so my creative directors are running all of those jobs individually. And when they need me, they'll get me. But I'm in all the channels. So if I see something, that's another thing I do. If I see something that I don't like, I don't just say something in the channel. I back channel to my creative director. I never undermine them. And I say, like, what's going on? And they'll be like, oh, you missed all the other chats. Everything's like, okay, yeah, I know it's terrible. So that's a real big thing. Like when somebody is a creative director, you have to like allow them to like really own that. And as a creative owner, I could really come in and undermine them. But I am very, very careful not to do that because they are the lead. And again, they are successful if their team is happy and the client is happy. It doesn't matter if the font should be 2 points smaller or the colors are a little bit off. If everybody's happy, I'm happy,
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for answering all those questions.
Yeah.
I am now going to open it up to the group. So we have 88 people on the call. So you guys can do it however you want. You can raise your hands. You can drop a question in chat. And I apologize ahead of time if I skip your questions because I feel like that can be answered elsewhere. So I'm going to prioritize the hand raises first, okay? So Jeffrey, go ahead.
Hey, Erin, it's been a while. I just want to say hey. For students and people who have been working in the industry for maybe 2 or 3 years now and who are looking to get that experience like you're talking about, front-end artists or studios, what would be your best piece of advice to build those relationships with those folks in those studios to kind of get your foot in those doors and kind of get the work that you want to get?
Yeah, so this is probably like the most important piece of advice I can get. So like I get emails every day from students through like contemporaries, and they just pile up. Eventually I get to them and try and have conversations with everybody. I'm really very good about that. But it does take time and it's slow. And I imagine like if I take 2 months to get back to somebody, they're like probably grateful that I got back to them, because I don't think most people would write back even. But you know, people want to get a job, and like waiting 2 months for like a, hey, it's a really weird time right there, but your work is great, like blah 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 blah. Let's do a Zoom and I can walk you through. I think the best thing, especially if you're looking to get in somewhere, is go to a peer. Go to somebody at your stage in your career who's at the studio. So if I were you, I'd look for somebody who's been at the studio for about 3 years or 3 years into their career. You look at our credit list, kind of do a little, you know, Nancy Drewing in the background, LinkedIn work. Reach out to them, say, hey, I just saw you worked on Superman. That's fucking amazing. I wish I could be in your shoes at a studio like that. Would you mind taking a look at my work, just seeing how it would stack up? If you're in town, ask to take them out for a drink. I know it's super weird, like, but just keep it professional. If you're reaching out to a woman, don't be weird about it. Just say maybe like, are there a few artists like at the studio I could take out? Because like sometimes ladies get a little bit like, ugh, you know, why is this guy reaching out to me? So there's like ways around that, right? Like, hey, you know, can I do a studio tour is another way. Like reach out to them. So I think the way in is through your peer, is through your exact counterpart. So whether you're a new grad or like a creative director level, reach out to that person, ask them to take a look at your work, have a conversation. They're going to be much more responsive. And honestly, like I get all the credit for everything. So for them to get reached out to, like that they're being noticed, is going to make them feel really good about themselves. So yeah, that's like a surefire way. And they have it, so they know when we're looking for people in the studio, and they'll say, hey, you know, I just had a drink with Jeffrey and he's fucking awesome. We should bring him in freelance for this gig. Or, oh, I heard Jeffrey's looking like on the DL, like let's have him in, have a conversation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the importance of in-person interaction. That's, you know, we have to continue to cultivate, especially, you know, as we work remotely more and more. Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
That's really awesome. I have a really interesting question from Emily in the chat, but Emily, I will let you ask in person.
Yeah, so I have a question. Hi, thank you for your talk, by the way. This is going amazing. So I have a question about being on staff versus being solo, especially as a woman. I've noticed that whenever I'm on staff, I get put in like mommy role, where I get like the grunt work, or I don't feel like people in the room actually listen to me, or they talk over me. And I really like being a solo freelancer, but it feeds my soul to mentor people and to see them succeed and talk with clients. So I'm kind of in this weird space, and I'm kind of curious if you have any thoughts about that, because it's a hard place to be.
Yeah, it is a hard place to be. I'm like thinking, like, gosh, do we do that to people? I think, you know, here's the thing, like we're all biased in some way, like every single one of us. Like it's like the more liberal you get, the more crazy you get, in my opinion, and the more like conservative you get, the more crazy you get. Like we all have biases that we kind of lean into. And so it's really hard to combat it. I would say if it's like egregious, like there are ways of kind of navigating those situations that would be like, hey, like I don't mind doing this roto, would love to take on some of this other work, if there's space to take on some of this other work as well. So not being so passive, looking for the opportunity, asking for it. And don't just like ask the creative director, like ask the producer, ask the designer, like, hey, I'm done with this roto. Can I take on I see you got another scene. Can I jump into that other scene and take that? Because if you're doing the work, it's undeniable that you're doing the work. They're going to give you more of that work to do. It just is. So I would say being more active in it. Nobody's going to say like, no, don't take on more responsibility. That's, you know, yeah. So that would be my advice to navigate through that. Yeah.
Yeah, Emily, I'll add a little bit of on top of that. Like from my personal experience, when I started my freelancing career, which was at Digital Kitchen in Chicago, what I did was that when I finished my work, I just would approach the producer and say, "Hey, I actually have free time.
Oh, bandwidth.
You need help on something else?" And then he put me on another task and another project. And guess what? That was an opportunity for me to connect with another producer, another team. And now I could prove that I could do that, right? So I think that, you know, if you had a bad experience at one agency, I would say give it another shot.
More like 5.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, I've been doing it for 15 years, but I just find it's really hard at studios to be heard. But yeah, I appreciate input, and it's just it's a grind, and soft skills are so important.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Emily. Several. I'm sorry, I butchered your name there. Go ahead, bud.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is simple. It's what's been your greatest failure, and what did it teach you?
My God, my greatest failure. So right before I started Sarofsky, I'm sorry, there's somebody at the door, so the dogs are going to take a minute to express their goodwill. So just before I started Sarofsky, like the studio, and why it's named Sarofsky is because I had to give it a name in like 2 seconds. I didn't really have time to figure it out. Was I started another company with 2 partners. And I'll say, like, when you start, you know, any kind of relationship, there's always like all of the best intentions, you know. And very quickly, it was like within 6 to 8 months, like it was very clear we were all on very different pages. You're being rude now. So it was very clear we were all on different pages, and it just, you know, it just exploded. It blew up, and it was like not fun. And like, obviously it's like such a quick arc of being like, everything's amazing. We're going to knock it out of the park. We're going to be the next big thing, to being like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my career? Like, I just moved back to Chicago. So what I learned is, like, at a certain point, you have to really protect yourself, like the legal stuff, understanding the business stuff, especially if you're a freelancer. You know, that's the nice thing about being a full-time, is you have like the very luxury of being just kind of protected and have a lot of, you know, just like government protections in place. Even as limited as they are in this country, they're still there. I think if you're thinking about starting a business, if you are thinking about starting a business, partnership agreements from the get-go are essential. They are absolutely essential. And just doing that, like, basic homework, like, if you are going to really get into something deep with somebody, like, recruit like you're a professional basketball team scouting. Like, you have to learn everything about this person and really talk to people that have worked with them and really get a sense, like maybe even take like personality tests so that you know how each other likes to communicate and all of that stuff. You gotta go really deep. And usually we're like just so excited we're on the same page with somebody, like we're off to a great start. But like, you know, a business relationship is like, could be just as amazing as an amazing marriage, or it could be just as toxic as a toxic marriage, right? Like, and you're locked in, you're kind of screwed once things get going. So I think just like understanding like the legality and like going the full distance on that when things are good, not when things are bad. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Nicole, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm actually a producer here at BN, working with Hung.
Awesome.
And I would love to know, in your experience, when you think about the best producers you've ever worked with, what made them great?
Oh, that's a really good question. What made them great? They talk to you. Like, I know that's going to seem like really simple, but where they mosey over to your desk, ask what's going on. They don't say yes before they chat with you and get a vibe for what's going on. There's no there's no gatekeeping information. Everything is just like out in the open, and they just like seek to understand, and they're a person that you can bring problems to before they're problems. So yeah, just being like very approachable and chit chatty, I think is really, 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 really important. So bad news doesn't age well. So getting ahead of it as much as possible. And that goes on the client side too. Like, clients just want to know that they're in very capable hands. So as a producer, you're often saying no. So like, for me, that's really important that my producer can say, nope, that's going to be an overage. Nope, that's going to be more time. Nope, that's going to be, but like, how do you do that in a way that is productive, that makes it sound like a yes? Like, nope, we can't do that. But, I just chatted with the team and like, we can get you that by the end of the day, like literally was just on the phone with a client. They're like, we really want that board-o-matic. And I was like, no, like Kat is going to decide when that board-o-matic is ready, not me. And I will check with her and I will push as hard as I can. But like, when she's ready, I'm ready. And I know you guys want it as soon as possible. And trust me, like, we've already agreed to move it from Monday to Friday. Like, that's it. Like, that's the best I can do. And so it's how you deliver that, though, that is super, super important. And, clarity is kindness, but also like, you got to be warm, Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. We got 5 minutes left. Spencer, you are up next.
Hey, Erin.
Hi, Spencer.
Hey, so I was really wondering what's something that you've been inspired by lately, if it's like a movie you saw, a book you read, or even just some music that you like.
No, well, I'm not the most musical person. I feel like if you look at my iPod, that's like where my music taste kind of stopped around Britney Topic era. so it's not gonna be music. What inspires me? It's crazy. Like, a lot of business books lately. Oh, for the dog, of course. Luna. A lot of business books lately have been inspiring me because they create process and, so distracted. Business books, really, because I've always been like very passive and very focused on the creative aspect of running the business. And it's really important to hone in and like work on the whole ecosystem. And there are people that get MBAs and really learn how to run a business and operate. And so now I'm in this like interesting place where it's like, oh, there's like methods and ways of doing this and an understanding of that. And then I'm also like creative and culture. And now I'm kind of in a place where I'm finding my own way with those two things, which feels really good. But I felt like doing a deep dive on those things. Any particular books? Yeah, well, not a book, but a podcast called Acquired. It's fucking amazing. And I highly recommend all of you start listening to that, because it really makes you understand that even what we do is a part of a whole business cycle. Like, there's supply, there's demand, there's like when Hung and I were talking at the start of the call, we were like, oh yeah, it was like a really weird start of the year. And well, there's a lot of reasons for that. And it has nothing to do with motion design. It just has to do with like the economy and like how people feel within it, and tariffs, and how all of it's connected. And like, if people have a surplus of goods, or if they're not going to be able to get their goods at a certain price, that's going to affect how they're going to market everything, So that's been really great. And if you want to start with a fun episode of Acquired, I would start with LVMH, and then go to Hermes, and then like go to Starbucks, or go to just like pop around to like whatever you're interested in. But I've been really inspired by these leaders that have just kind of like have had strong belief in themselves, but also knowledge, and have put all the chips in and gone, a bit more aggressive than, and so I've been really feeling like that and making kind of bold decisions with my own business the last year or so. And I do hope that that pays off. But, listening to these stories, and they do come across like as stories, has been really super interesting. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. We are out of time. Sorry, Oliver, Ian, and John.
Yeah, I have a little more time if you need.
You have more time? All right.
Yeah,
you have more time.
15 minutes.
Maybe we take a couple more questions. Yeah. So Oliver, I'm going to give you got to make it quick, bud. All right. So go ahead. Go.
Fast anyway, the Irish accent, as we all know. Yeah, is there any like tools or techniques, Erin, that you use to kind of chill you out? Because I know there's a lot of like noise around AI and everything, and your LinkedIn and everything. Is there anything you do that like focuses you every day? Like, do you draw, or do you like to kind of set you up for the day?
No, like I just dive right in. Like I do a Wordle every morning and chat with a few friends about that. It's a nice way of like just having like a fun social interaction before I dive in. But no, I dive right in. I love what I do. I mean, I do a lot with the house and decor and like antiquing and things like that, but it doesn't like ground me before I get going. It's probably like a big distraction, just like looking for wallpaper. But no, I dive in. I really love what I do. And this morning I realized I was like multitasking like 6 things. I was like updating the location deck. I was working on a Hulk Hogan scrimp that's going to be animated and out today. It's a little unhinged. I love it. But so was he. And just like chatting some people in Slack, and that was like at 7 a.m. So I just feel like I dive in and I multitask, and I just have become really probably good at that. But I think also people around me can tell. So I like on calls, I really try and be very present, like when I'm actually talking to somebody, because they can really sense when you're like just working and you're, trying to talk to them. So no, I wish I had like an answer for you. I think I'm like
No, I was just asking because I'm similar. Like I wake up in the morning and I watch soccer stuff and Irish stuff, and everyone's like, "You should paint or draw in the morning." I'm like, I need to work. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely have hobbies, but most of them are like weekend, weekend things. And but there's hobbies, like I always have to be doing something. I think that's like one of the things that makes me is if I don't feel like I'm being productive, it's really hard for me to relax, like really hard.
Yeah. All right. Well, just to respect everyone's time, I would like to close this out. I'm going to pass it back to Vanessa to show you just some closing slides that we have. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. So this is how you can get in contact with Erin. Erin, I hope I got all the information right here. So, of course, Sarofsky.com, LinkedIn, follow her, and on both LinkedIn and Instagram. And between the key frames is an amazing podcast that can get a lot of your questions answered. I recommend it.
Totally.
Thank you. Thanks, Erin. It has been a pleasure having you in this fireside chat. We also want to invite everyone to join to the next fireside chat with Simon Dixon. You can check in the Fly on the Wall website and also in this QR, so you can RSVP your form. And it was great having you all, and see you next time, hopefully on August the 24th.
Yeah. And echoing Ricardo, thank you both for putting this together. I really appreciate it. I know this had to be a shit ton of work.
It's our pleasure. And see everyone around in our different, projects for the Fly on the Wall, being the flyers on the wall. So
yeah, well, great.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone. Thank you, Erin.
Have a great day.
Thank you. It's awesome. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.